Welcome to the Living the Dream podcast with Curveball. If you believe, you can achieve. Welcome to the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast, a show where I interview guests that teach, motivate, and inspire. Today, I am joined by creator and business savvy entertainment multi-hyphenate, Marlene Sharp. Marlene is the top dog at Poodle Productions, Inc., and she is the IP strategist and acquisition head of a company called
Rainshine.
Rainshine Entertainment. I got distracted by my son in the background, but yeah, she's the head there. So we're going to be talking to her about everything that she's up to. And she also consulted on the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. So Marlene, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you for finding me.
Well, why don't you start off just by telling everybody a little bit about yourself, because you got a lot of experience and work with a lot of clients.
Yes. Well, like Curtis, I am from Louisiana. So we have that in common. Maybe we're cousins. I don't know. We need to compare our DNA results maybe after this is done. But we both come from Louisiana. I was born in New Orleans and lived there until after college. So I went to Loyola University in New Orleans. And when I graduated, I went on to graduate school at San Diego State University, got an MFA in musical theater, and was pretty much qualified to do nothing after that. And I had a lot of student loans, and I knew I wanted to be an actor, but I did realize that I would need support just to live. And I wasn't really coordinated enough to be an actor / waiter or server. And so I thought an office job would be the best route for me. So I had a few small support positions in offices here and there. And then through temping, I landed at a company called Renaissance Atlantic Films that was instrumental in the development and production of Power Rangers. So I ended up working at that company, started as a temp, and what was a 2-week temporary position turned into 5 years of working on Power Rangers and Digimon and so many other shows, and shows that originated in Japan and then were based on toy properties, so toy lines, merchandise-driven entertainment, and then were exported from Japan to the rest of the world. And I still continued to do acting, and I am still an actor, but I don't audition as much anymore, if ever, if I can help it. It's very difficult to lead a double life of going off to audition and sneaking away from the day-to-day of working in the business of entertainment. And so that's where I put most of my focus. And today I am queen of the nerds because I have worked on so many nerd-focused properties, and I am proud to say that Sonic the Hedgehog is one of them. And I've worked on a lot of properties from Japan that have been exported from Japan to the rest of the world. And yeah, just trying to survive like everybody else.
So what made you want to get into the entertainment industry?
I guess I just like being the center of attention. I really don't know, because I don't come from a performing family. I was an only child until my brother came along when I was 5.5. And I guess my mother and my grandmother are very theatrical people. My late grandmother, very theatrical people, even though they weren't on stage per se. They're just larger than life personalities. And they also took me to see a lot of children's theater. And I really liked that. And I also watched a lot of TV. And so I guess early on, I must have inquired about such things, because I do remember I was a kid. I went to the library and checked out books on like how to get your kid into show business. So I made the connection between watching TV and the business of entertainment and so forth. But I made that connection, but I'm not exactly sure how that came about. But yeah, I always wanted to be in entertainment. Didn't ever want to do anything else. And that being said, if I had to do it over again, I might rethink my career choices, because it's not the easiest road to take. That's for sure.
Well, let's talk about, you also have experience in working with autistic and neurodiverse individuals. My son's autistic, so tell us about that
Oh,
experience and how you came to do work with those type of special needs.
that's a good question. So I have a very good friend who she's an artist. She's a digital sculptor, and she started working at a school in Torrance, California, called the Center for Learning Unlimited. She's been working there probably 5 years or so. And in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic, she contacted me and she said that the school, which started as K through 12th grade, had added an animation program for adults on the autism spectrum. And they were about a year away from graduating their first class of 8 students in this 3-year certificate program. And the administration was wondering how to advise the students how to prepare them for life after graduation. And so their program was very focused on technique, art technique, which is not my talent, but I've worked a lot in animation. And so I know a bit about putting together animation pipelines and production schedules and budgets and creative development, writing scripts. So she asked me if I would talk to her bosses and just have a conversation with them and advise them on career opportunities. And I wasn't familiar with the neurodiverse population at all. So I didn't know if my advice would be appropriate or authentic, but I thought I'll give it a shot. I can share my knowledge and see what happens. So that actually started a relationship between myself and the school. And I still advise them to this day. And my role is very loosey goosey. So I am a link to the outside world beyond their academic setting. I help to bring in a lot of guest speakers from the industry for them, and for especially guest speakers who can help them explore career choices that go beyond just working in the studio system. Because the reality of the business is, when people think of animation, they automatically picture working on a big crew for a Disney or a Pixar movie. And even the best and brightest in art school, that's not a realistic career goal. It's very difficult. Even if you're so talented, those types of jobs in the studios are just long hours, a lot of work, and a lot of criticism and politics and so forth. And that's just doesn't fit everybody's personality. So one thing that I like to do is bring in guest speakers who can inspire them with an entrepreneurial spirit. That's one thing that we feel is important to encourage. And then also people who've made careers in animation or animation adjacent industries. So just a little bit of poking around on the internet, you can find out how many industries use some form of animation. One interesting example is we had a gentleman come in who specializes in animation for pharmaceutical companies. So pharmaceutical companies will use simulations, 3D simulations, to demonstrate the efficacy of drugs on the body. So when a pharmaceutical rep is going around to talking to doctors, trying to sell new medications, they'll use these films, these animated films, to show, okay, the patient ingests the pill and it goes down the esophagus, and it goes here, and this mitigates the swelling here, and this and that. So there's a whole cottage industry of animation for pharmaceutical companies, not to mention the medical field in general, just like simulating surgeries and things like that for medical students to learn about anatomy and all that stuff. So really making the students well-rounded about all the different possibilities that there are with animation, and giving them encouragement and support. And then we are fortunate that we're based in Los Angeles, so we can bring in some of the star power a little bit for the students. And they are super fans of video games and cartoons, animated movies, and so forth. So we try to mix it up with speakers who are voice actors or directors or recognizable names, and that makes things more fun for them too.
Well, talk about some of the clients that you've had the privilege to work with, because you've worked with a lot of them. Just kind of give a brief description of, the clients you've worked with and what you've done for them.
Yeah, well, you know what? I've never said this on a podcast before, and I've been on a number of podcasts, but one of my favorite people that I ever worked with, and this was like around 2013 or 2014, was Russell Simmons, the music producer. It was such a crazy way that I found him, and he was on the verge of starting his all deaf digital YouTube channel, and I had read something in it was one of the trades, maybe Variety or Hollywood Reporter, that he was involved in developing a game app for kids that involved animation. And so he was working with a woman who had developed the app. And so we had a couple of projects at the studio where I was at the time. It was called RGH Entertainment, that I thought might be a fit, because I wasn't aware that he was pursuing children's entertainment, but we had some music-driven properties, and I thought maybe, and some comedy, and I thought, well, I'm going to try to connect with this lady, because Russell's too big and important, and he probably, I wouldn't be able to get to him, but maybe this woman, I could get to her, and just to explore. So I'm kind of a busybody that way. I'll read about something and I'll get fixated on it, and then I'll chase it down until I'm satisfied. So I was able to connect with his business partner on this project, and we had a lot in common. She was really nice, and so I told her I work for a company that is based in Jordan, in the country of Jordan, but we have an LA office, and we develop and produce movies and TV series. We were doing something for Cartoon Network at the time called Pink Panther and Pals, and a TV series about Pink Panther. And we had some other stuff. And I was telling her about how we were developing original projects. And I said, I don't know, maybe there's some common ground, because we were also trying to get into the game app world and do stuff there. But it was tricky, because nobody on staff really had a whole picture of how that was done. So anyway, she was interested to talk, and she said, "Oh, I think Russell would love to meet with you. He just moved to LA permanently and could come to your studio." And I said, "Well, yeah, but we're kind of far out. I mean, we're in Woodland Hills, and I'm sure he is on the west side somewhere, which is in traffic. God only knows how long that could take. So one feels compelled to warn people about the traffic situation if they're not already familiar with it. But sure enough, he came to our office with Natalia, who is the inventor of this app, and then Simone, who was his right hand and had worked with him for a number of years. And so the day that they came to the office was quite a to-do, because we didn't get a lot of stars coming to our office, and everybody recognized Russell. So there was a lot of taking out of cell phones and snapping photos and so forth. And then what ended up happening was that we never did work with him on an app, but we worked with him on an animated series called B-Rock that we collaborated with Wayne Stamps, who's very accomplished writer. He is on the staff of Real Husbands of Hollywood with Kevin Hart. He worked on like the first iteration of that, and also on Proud Family and bunches of other stuff. So he had created B-Rock, and our studio animated it, and we were entering it into film festivals and so forth. And we had a full web series of like, I think maybe 9 3-minute episodes. And so Russell told us about his YouTube channel, and he acquired the whole series for his YouTube channel and used it to launch the channel. And then we developed some other things with him over the next couple of years, and he was really interested and curious about the process and everything. And he would host us at his house for meetings, which was fun. And then I eventually left the company and went to go work at Sega. And then the relationship between RGH and Russell fizzled out after a while for a variety of reasons. But I remember that as one of the most pleasant collaborations of my career. So there you go.
Well, tell us about Poodle Production Inc. and tell us about that company and what you do there.
So that's my company that I started. Well, it started as just a website for me to showcase my work, a glorified resume, if you will. And I was working at Sega when I just bought the domain name and came up with Pink Poodle Productions, because I love pink and I love poodles, and like pink poodles is like a double whammy. That's like super great. So I wanted to smile when I said my company name, and I have a built-in mascot. She's right here sleeping at my feet. Blanche is my poodle Bichon mix. And so I had a mascot, had the name and everything, and then I set it up and just put like video clips of things that I had produced and written and whatnot. Put the link on my LinkedIn page. And then, so I was working at Sega at the time. And then I got an offer to go work for another Japanese video game company that had offices in LA. And that company is called Level 5. So I was working for other people, but I just kept the website up there as just a showcase of my work. And then at the end of 2019, I lost my job. So Level 5 decided to close all of their offices that were not in Japan. And that included our LA office. And then they had one in Hong Kong and one in Seoul, Korea. And it was a rather abrupt announcement and transition. And so I didn't have another full-time job waiting for me. And so, but what I did have was the Pink Poodle website, and I had a couple of offers from friends to do some small consulting projects. So I just thought, well, my full-time job is going to be Pink Poodle Productions until otherwise noted, until indefinitely. So that's what I did. And Pink Poodle Productions is still there. It's still me and Blanche, who's the chairwoman of the board, of course, and the mascot. But truth be told, I am a full-time employee of Rainshine Entertainment as of last February. But I do have the website's still there because I have my fingers in many pies. I write a lot for various online publications, and I speak on a lot of panels, and I don't know. Like I said, I'm a busybody, so I've got a lot of stuff going on, and it's just nice to have the website as it's like a scrapbook, a showcase, a portfolio, whatever you would like to call it. And it's a banner that I know will always be there. I can't speak for other companies that hire me, but it's very rare to get a job in the business that is a lifetime of employment. So it's also my safety net. So yeah, it's not super glamorous when you get into the nitty gritty, but it's practical.
So tell us what it was like from going from New Orleans to Los Angeles.
Oh, wow. Well, I've been in Los Angeles for so long, but still I'm surprised very often at habits and things that became a part of me living in New Orleans and that I expect are just things in the universe, things in the world, but no, they're very specific to New Orleans. And so I guess it's a constant period of adjustment, I guess, for a lifetime. But I always did want to live in Los Angeles. Even as a kid, I knew as soon as I was old enough to realize that the epicenter of show business was either New York or Los Angeles, I wanted to live in one of those places. And I figured because of the weather and so forth, that probably the West Coast was the place for me. And I am not representative of most people from where I grew up. I grew up in a small suburb called Metairie. And and as you know, Curtis, especially New Orleans is a very fun-loving culture where people enjoy football and drinking above all else, and I enjoy neither of those things. So I didn't fit in there very well. I was very much a bookworm and a drama nerd and daydreaming and so forth. And I think I only went to like one Saints game in my whole life, and that was when I was in the media club in high school, and we covered it because our dance team was dancing at the the game. But like I didn't fit into the football and drinking culture, and I just felt like there was other stuff, beyond for me. So I guess my transition to Southern California was a little bit easier than somebody who maybe feels that New Orleans is their spiritual home, and then they have to go elsewhere to find themselves. I pretty much knew from an early age I'd have to leave.
Tell the listeners about your overseas work and travel experiences in the entertainment business.
Oh, yeah. So most of my jobs have been with companies that are headquartered in other countries. And that was something that was an eye-opener for me when I moved here to Los Angeles, to realize that so many companies from everywhere in the world have a presence in Los Angeles, even if it's just like one person or a small office. And I guess it makes sense because being the media capital of the world, it just makes sense for businesses to have, especially like media businesses, news organizations, or film distribution and platforms that like streaming platforms and networks, to have some kind of presence here. But even like when you think of, let's say, Korea, they have a lot of places have like English language media businesses that are based here. So like all the major Korean networks have a broadcast facility here in Los Angeles so that they can cover news of the Korean American community and expats and so forth. So I had no idea about that, but I found out pretty quickly when I got my first job at Renaissance Atlantic Films, which was the company working on Power Rangers and all that. So that company was just a small consultancy, an American man who had worked overseas a lot. And we were pretty much funded by Bandai, which is a big Japanese toy company. So Frank, my boss, Frank Ward, had been the president of Bandai America. So the Southern California hub for Bandai's business outside of Japan. And so we were dealing a lot with Japan. Essentially, we were a Japanese company because they paid Frank as a consultant when he had retired from Bandai as the president of Bandai America. They retained him on an exclusive basis. So everything we did was related to Bandai, and Bandai made the Power Rangers toys and the Digimon toys, and we would have to manage the TV series and make sure that it was all aligned with the plans to sell the toys. So that's where I found out that kind of thing was going on in the world and also in show business. And then I guess I got stuck in that world. And so my next job after that, I actually went to work at Disney for a couple of years. And that was, Disney's an American company. But then after Disney, I worked for a Korean animation studio. And in that case, I served as their LA office. I worked from home, but I had to go to Korea every now and then. And they really wanted somebody in Los Angeles who could be their point person with the studios. We had some business going on with Disney and with some other companies. And I also went to Canada a number of times because we had some Canadian business. Then let's see what else. I had a company of my own for a little bit and two partners. And then after that, I worked for a Jordanian company. So it was the same kind of situation. The headquarters, the big office was in Amman, Jordan, but they wanted to have people in Los Angeles to pitch projects to the studios and forge those relationships. So did that. Then I worked for Sega and Level 5, which were both Japanese companies. I worked for the Los Angeles branches of those. And then now Rainshine Entertainment, which is headquartered in Mumbai in India. And so here I am doing the same thing that I guess the universe has intended me to do.
Do you have any current or upcoming projects that you're working on that people need to know about?
Yes, there is a big one called Young Captain Nemo, and it's an animated film franchise that Rainshine Entertainment is spearheading. And it's based on a book series, a children's books, middle grade readers. So it's an early chapter book trilogy. So we optioned the books from the author, Jason Henderson, who's an accomplished children's book author. And he took the story of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne, which it's French. It was originally written in French in the early 1800s, and it's pretty classic literature. And in that story, or there are a couple of works of Jules Verne that feature this seafaring character, Captain Nemo. And Nemo is a name that's familiar to people because it's been used in a lot of different projects through the years. But the original Captain Nemo was the creation of Jules Verne. So the author of Young Captain Nemo took that character of the original Captain Nemo and imagined what it would be like if he had descendants who were living in present day and were traveling the oceans, studying the ocean, and working toward ocean conservation and combating eco-terrorism, I guess you could say. And so it's basically a boys action adventure property, and the hero is a young boy of Indian descent. He's a teenager his name is Gabriel Nemo, and he is like the great, great, great grandnephew of the original Captain Nemo. And he believes in using technology to save the oceans, but he has a sister who is more of a hothead and a vigilante. And so there's a rift in the family there. And then there's an uber villain who comes along, and they have to reconcile their differences over the course of these 3 books. And we're making them into 3 films, 3 animated films. So it's we're in production right now. We have a script by Jeffrey Reddick, who read the books, and we hired him to adapt the first movie into a movie script. And Jeffrey is very accomplished. He's the creator of Final Destination, the Final Destination movie franchise. And he's also written a lot for animation. So he did a great job on the script, and we're working on it right now.
Well, so people can keep up with everything that you're doing, throw out your contact information, like social media, websites, anything like that.
Yeah. So my website is pinkpoodleproductions.com. And I am most active on LinkedIn. I am a maniac on LinkedIn. And I also manage the Women in Animation group page. So, and anybody can join. It's free to join the group page. You just basically put your name in there, and you're accepted through me as the monitor there. And we have a lot of great opportunities that come through for screenings and classes and job opportunities. And there are more than 17,000 members worldwide. So I'm always on LinkedIn managing that group, and then my own profile. But that's probably the best way to keep up with me is on LinkedIn. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and what else? I guess those are the major platforms.
Well, this last question is going to be like a double question. The first part is, tell us something that you really want to accomplish before your career is over. And the second part is, give some advice to any aspiring media moguls out there.
Wow, something that I really like to accomplish. Well, I would really love to win an Oscar. That would be awesome. But I'd like all the bells and whistles that come with it, because to me, winning an Oscar means, in my childlike mind, it means financial security. It means great projects. It means being in demand for all kinds of opportunities. So I not only want to win the Oscar, I want the whole kit and caboodle that's supposed to come with that whole, that's the package that I'm signing up for, is the whole Oscar glamorous movie star package. And as far as advice goes, I have 2 bits of advice that I like to give, whether people want it or not, but I like to tell people just to be nice to everybody, because I like it when people are nice to me, and I figure other people like that too. And it seems easier to attract bees with honey than with vinegar. So why not? Why not put goodness out in the world? And even if folks are not responsive in the way that you want, maybe you're making a difference in their life, and you're contributing toward a change in them that will come eventually. And then also, just as much as you can, be open to opportunities, even things that don't seem like opportunities, to try to embrace what lands in your lap and take lemons and make lemonade. Because I never thought I'd be working in the business in the capacity that I am now. And in the beginning, I was really embarrassed to say that I worked on Power Rangers and all those shows. I thought they were terrible. And I had really lofty goals for myself about winning Oscars and such. And early on, when I was working for my boss, Frank, I remember him giving notes to writers saying, we're not trying to win Emmys, we're selling toys. So he didn't want the scripts to be good in the sense that they had a lot of clever dialogue and all of that. He wanted action sequences that showed off the gadgets and weapons and vehicles that were part of the toy line. These shows are commercials for toys, essentially. So that was a real wake-up call to me. And I never thought I'd be like the nerd poster girl. But oh my goodness, as soon as I started telling people that I was working for Sega, I had so many strangers contact me, as people from the Sonic fandom and Sega fandom, because they were just so curious to know about the people who worked at Sega. And then it started this interesting dialogue that I've had with the rest of the world that loves Sonic and Sega that's lasted to this day. And most of the podcasts that I go to speak, everyone wants to know about Sonic and Sega. So again, that might not have been my girlhood dream, but I'm so thankful for it.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Marlene Sharp. Be sure to check her out on LinkedIn and keep up with everything that she's up to. Also, follow, rate, review, share this episode to as many people as possible. And check out the Living the Dream with Curveball podcast on the Podbreed Network. Marlene, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. And it just hit me, curveball. That fits right in with embracing opportunities that might not seem like it at first, right?
Absolutely.
That's a great, great title.
For more information on the Living the Dream podcast, visit www.djcurveball.com. Until next time, stay focused on living the dream.